Hello and welcome. And I am jumping on here to share some thoughts and feelings around the new Netflix documentary, which is about twin flames. And I watch a lot of documentaries and a lot of documentaries, especially on cults, because it's a really interesting topic to me. And I wanted to share my perspective because I see a lot of people reviewing things, and a lot of people who review things are content creators and they're creating content. And maybe they have a certain perspective. Maybe they're a therapist. Maybe they've experienced something. And I am a mentor and trainer of healing practitioners and other kinds of practitioners. I have been doing this work for a long time. I'm a shamanic and energetic medicine practitioner. And I've been very involved in spiritual communities of all kinds. And so I think that I offer a very valuable reflection on this, because a lot of times when you hear content creators, or what we could call the mainstream people, commenting on spiritual work or spiritual people or healing or spiritual communities, there is an air of, well, this is all BS and it's all snake oil and it's all about manipulation and none of this is real. And so because of my background and my current position, I have a more nuanced relationship to these works. I have been in many different spiritual communities and healing communities, from conscious communities and yoga communities, breath work, healing trainings and certification communities, medicine work communities. So I have a lot of experience with this. And I've also helped a lot of people who have been abused by practitioners, who have come across a community or a leader or an organization that ranges from extreme cult to, oh, little shady, and everywhere in between. And a lot of people who have invested a lot of money, maybe in a coach or coaching program that turned out to be harmful and unethical, or who have experienced some kind of practitioner abuse or just manipulation. So because of that, I've heard a lot of stories and I've seen a lot of things. And so this documentary is right in my field of experience and study and practice. So one piece is that, like I said, a lot of people who review spiritual, I've seen some reviews of spiritual or healing classes or coaches and practitioners. And there's a lot of like, oh, this is all smoke and mirrors. This is all the BS. And the truth is, it's not all BS. It's not all smoke and mirrors. Energy is real. Healing is real. People heal themselves. I have seen and witnessed things that would seem a little bit miraculous, and where people can heal themselves. And I am a great proponent of spiritual development, personal development, energetic development, finding your spiritual path and finding your spiritual community. And so I think it's important that while we illuminate the shadows and the things in these communities that are harmful and that need to be explained, it doesn't mean that every spiritual community, every teacher, every person who does healing work is somehow manipulating you or trying to harm you. That isn't the case. So it is really important to understand how to see the red flags and the warnings and develop discernment. And also, if you have experienced something like this, that you get support in healing from this kind of wound, because it can shut you down from receiving other kinds of healing later that might be beneficial for you. I know that it's hard to trust again if you have experienced something like this. So finding the right people, practitioners, friends, and community can be really important. So let's talk about this documentary. um, so one of the things that's really important to understand in this, and they kind of touch on this very early on, is that these people can have abilities. They can see things, know things, hear things, be able to move energy, have connections to the spirit realms, have power, internal power that you feel. And a lot of times people early on in this documentary, they said, oh, well, I just got this feeling. I got this sensation. Oh, this is for me. And uh, this ability that people have, that some people have, to make them trust them and to project energy to other people that makes them feel something. And then that feeling is translated into trust. So it's really important to understand when you're on this path that just because somebody has abilities or power or energy does not mean that they are ethical. And the problem here is that generally, when we experience something from someone and it feels good or powerful or significant for us, then we automatically assume their good intent and their ethics based on how we would assume that someone who has those abilities would behave. So this is so important to understand that it's not just BS, this stuff isn't real, there's no such thing as healing or energy or spirits or any of that. That's one view. But when you have that view, you're probably maybe not going to get as mixed up in this whole situation. But when you have the view, oh, it is, all of that's real, spirituality, all these things are real, but you're assuming that that means good intent and ethical behavior. You need to be able to separate those in your mind and really listen to what people say, witness what you are seeing, be able to check in to yourself and understand where people are coming from in their work. Because we do project, and this is something that is in any therapeutic relationship, really, and projection can go both ways. But one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is on how much that we project our own goodness onto other people. A very brilliant client of mine actually was talking about, she works with people who have experienced toxic relationships, and this awareness that generally when we come out of that toxic relationship, we might realize, oh, I was projecting my own ethics, my own integrity, my own compassion and empathy onto this other person. And people who are abusers, people who are narcissists, they are counting on that. They're counting on that projection of your care and concern for others onto them. So one of the pieces here early on in the documentary is they talk about the main guy, who I can't even remember his name, but the main guy he has a made up name. The main guy, where he came from. And this is really important, which you might not always get a good backstory on people. A lot of people make up a backstory about themselves, I guess. So he came out of business school. He immediately went into lifestyle entrepreneurship, which meant I'm going to project a lifestyle that is going to cause people to desire that lifestyle, and that is what's going to make me money. That was his whole plan from the very beginning. And you can see this playing out through the creation of this Ascension University. So with that, you are getting this information on the initial inspiration of this creation. Because when you create something, you create a business, an organization, your healing practice, whatever it is, that initial egg core essence of what you're creating is what will expand into the future. And it wasn't that the inspiration was, how can I help people? How can I serve? How can I change the world and make it a better place? Actually, his initial inspiration was desire and lust for money and recognition, and for people to feel jealous and desirous of his life and what he has. And that was the core piece that was brought into this creation. And you can see that's exactly what he developed. That's exactly what he made. This desire for the influence and the money, and wanting other people to want what he has. And he tried lots of different things before he landed on this, because he found in landing on this that people were desperate. He found that desperation that people want so badly to be in love and to be loved and to have this forever unity, because we as humans experience separation. It's part of being human, is that we experience separation from the divine, separation sometimes from the earth, from our family, from others. And part of the path of healing and spiritual development is to actually reawaken our own internal experience of unity consciousness, sometimes it's called, but our ability to be aware that we are all one, and that there is a unity field, and that I'm not separate from the divine. I'm not separate from everyone else, that I am part of this collective consciousness. And then hopefully through our spiritual practices, we're becoming better people, more kind, compassionate, forgiving, loving, and we're contributing to this collective consciousness field. But part of this process is that a lot of us experience loneliness and separation. And especially if you've had early childhood, especially developmental trauma, so often things that have happened even in the womb, but in the early couple of years of life, where if you didn't receive the feedback that you needed to receive, you might feel a lot of separation inside of you that you're looking to fill up. And this can really be manipulated and used against you, because someone is finding your desire, right? And that is what this man was tapping into. He was utilizing his desire. He was amplifying his desire. He was making it really strong, which was his desire for being known, being the leader, having fame, having people be jealous of him, and telling people what to do. And money. And he used that desire and he amplified it. He made it really strong. And then he used that to hook in to other people's desire and to get them invested in what he's saying. And what I think it's important to look at is how much that he was so focused on money from the beginning, because there are quite a few practitioners out there that is their number one focus. They're like, yes, I want to help people. Yes, I want to do some good things, right? But their number one focus is actually money. And they will shame people and criticize people and put people down whose number one focus isn't money, that isn't their number one desire, or that they don't have this huge desire for it. It's seen as something that you are not manifesting enough. You're not invested enough in your own value. You're not working at a high enough dimensional state, a high enough state of consciousness to manifest all your desires. And this is a huge part of the coaching world, because there are a lot of people who are looking for their greatest desires. I mean, it's how you sell things to people, right? You look for their greatest desire and you poke it and you poke it and you poke it and you poke it. And then you say, I can give you that. I can give you that. I can give you that. And so this man just learned what people were desiring. And then he transformed himself into being the avatar of their desire. A husband, a lover, somebody who's gonna be strong and powerful and committed, right? So I think this piece is really important, that we're looking at the essence. Where does something begin? Because it's only going to grow. And if a practitioner hasn't done work on himself, herself, their self, if a practitioner hasn't done work on themselves and isn't constantly doing work on themselves, it is actually can be easy for people to fall into manipulative tactics, and also to receive manipulative tactics from other coaches who are telling them that this is how you manifest what you want. You manipulate people. You take advantage of them because it's for their own good. You, make sure that you're poking all their pain points enough that they are willing to do anything, even if they can't really afford to work with you. They're still willing to work with you and put themselves in debt, or, create drama and trauma in their own life to work with you. So this is stuff that's out there in the coaching industry, in the business coaches who are coaching the coaches to be able to make enough money, because I will tell you, it's actually challenging to be an entrepreneur and make money and do your work and be of service and be on social media and do all the things that need to happen in order to be successful in this business. So let's talk about this mirror exercise. So in this, they talk a lot about the mirror exercise. I don't know if this is their only exercise that they have. It sounds like this is their basic core exercise. They keep repeating it over and over and over again. Now, this is so important for you to understand. When I was listening to the mirror exercise, this is why cults and spiritual practitioners will do this very specific thing, which is they have this exercise and they're able to replicate. It's part of this brainwashing process that they're taking you through, that you will, before you trust yourself, you will trust the exercise that has been repeated. You will go to it before anything else. Now, sometimes these exercises are so beneficial and so important. Changing your state of being, pivoting your mind when your mind starts going all crazy and you are taking a dedicated action to shift your mindset. There's so many practices. I teach a ton of practices, but I teach a ton of different practices, because I want people to find what's working for them and what's most beneficial, and to give them a repertoire and a toolbox that is actually helping them access their own inner knowing, intuition, higher guidance, higher self, felt body, embodied sense of what is right and wrong for them. But with this, they've got this one exercise. They keep repeating it. So you could see later on, the girl was in prison and that's the only thing she knows to do, because they haven't actually given them real tools, right? They haven't given them a lot of tools. They've given them something so simple and repeatable, and it's the only thing they have. And it's a brilliant exercise, this one that they have, because in one way, there is an effectiveness to it. So when you do it, you go, oh, I'm seeing that I'm personally responsible for my thoughts and feelings. That's great. And I'm going to love myself. Oh, very good. So this is beneficial, right? Those two things are beneficial. So, but you can see how it's used as a manipulation tactic, because then everything is your fault. Nothing is anybody else's fault. No one can hurt you but you. They say that later. So if no one can hurt you but you, and I can't hurt you, then the harm that I'm causing you is actually your fault. And this is very classic abuser mind messery, right? And the thing is that when you look at cults, when you look at spiritual teachers who are manipulating, what they do is they have spiritual truths and they have effective practices that they are then sandwiching those in between the manipulations. And you'll see this in like yoga communities and stuff. And they're like, whoa, I have had this amazing breakthrough because I have this incredible practice and we're doing these practices together and the practice is so important. But then they're making them do the practice and not go to the bathroom and not sleep and not eat. And they're breaking down their psychology through the practice, which in and of itself is a good practice. So this is so important to understand. Just because you go to some big event and somebody does this amazing meditation and you receive benefit, you receive some healing, doesn't mean that the entire thing is healing. It might mean that they have drawn in some really potent pieces in order to, put some spice into your poop cake and make it taste okay for you, because you're going to get a result. And then over time, you get some results, and then you're hooked in. And you're hooked into a cycle, which then becomes abusive over time. It doesn't immediately start off as abusive most of the time because people would walk away. So one of the things that happens in the process of this is that they have a what do they call this? They had a little gathering. They had a tea gathering, right? Where they had in New York, and they had everybody come together. And one of the things that the leader says is, these people love me. I've never experienced that in my life. So this is really saying a lot about the inner world and the psychology that is built, that everything that this man is building from. This need to be seen and loved, and his actually never having had that. I don't know what this person's past is, but we can probably bet that their childhood, their early adulthood, they didn't actually feel loved. And that all of this going to social media to become a lifestyle influencer was a lot about getting that dopamine hit of likes and comments and appreciation, and then the money that came in because of that. And so you can see again the essence, the core of who someone is and why they are making the decisions that they are. Now, as we go on, there's a lot of other things that they say, which are really troubling, that you should red flag, look out for, pay attention to. One of those is that soul family is your only family. If you are in an organization that is telling you that you should no longer communicate with your family, this is a huge red flag. Now, sometimes you come from a very abusive home, an currently abusive situation where people are actively harming you, and you might find a practitioner that supports and helps you to go no contact with your family or with a specific family member. If that's the case, that can be beneficial for you, but I would really suggest that you do that with a therapist and that you are getting support maybe from some other practitioners and people, some different reflection points, and that you are personally guided in making that decision, that you know that that's the right decision before you ever enter someone's field, really. And that they're giving you that support and reflection to be able to see, oh, this actually is quite abusive and this is harmful to my life right now, and this is what I need to do in order to maintain my sanity and my health and well-being. Okay, these are different things. You're looking at, in this situation, people who had normal experiences and relationships with their family. Everybody has challenges with their family, but normal relationships with their family, and they're being told the soul family is the only family. And when you're seeing a cult situation, they will try to separate you from people who love you, because that's part of how they draw you in and make you dependent on them, because they're really the only people who love you. And when you have someone who loves you, you want to make them happy. You want to do what they want. And in this, they said that one of the things they said was that people who don't support this spiritual work or whatever, they're an energy leak, and that you need to get rid of energy leaks. So let's talk about this. Energy leaks are real. You have energy leaks in your life. And this means things that are draining your energy, taking up your time, attention, your care and concern, that are not helpful for you. And yeah, you should really look at those things. I so encourage you to look at those things. Look at things where you're spending your time and attention and energy in places that are not helping you. And getting rid of things in your life that aren't supportive to who you want to be is part of the healing process. Oh, I spend too much time on social media. Oh, I've been binging food, shopping, addictions, things like that, right? Those are all energy leaks, and we need to look at those on our path. But to be told that anybody who doesn't 100% believe in what you're doing is an energy leak and you have to get rid of them, that's a red flag. Okay. Because you can still have relationships with people who don't believe what you believe. That's 100% possible. In fact, it's good. It's good to have relationships with people that don't 100% believe what you believe. It's fine. All right. So I wanted to get and talk about a few of the women that shared their stories. And the first one is the girl Marley, who was the youngest girl. So it was interesting what they did here, in that, and it was so funny that he pretended that he didn't know how old this girl was, that she was the youngest one in the group, that she was 19, because he knew that. He knew that he could manipulate her. And they did this whole calling in the twin flames ceremony, and, which is bringing in this idea, we can do something that no one else can. And that whole thing about, oh, we can see your twin flames. We can do something that no one else can. We have this answer for you that no one else has. It's very rare that you find someone who has something that no one else has. Okay. This brings up these fears of lack and not getting something, right? The fear of missing out and the fear of lack that come up. Well, even though this doesn't quite feel right to me, if I leave this situation, they're the only ones who have access to this. They're the only ones who can do this. They're the only ones who have this. And I mean, I've experienced this in my journeys over the years of deciding to leave a spiritual community or teacher or modality and thinking, oh, this is so good. This is like, I'm no longer going to be a part of this, right? It's special. And because it's special, I'm special. And that means something. So back to Marley. Let's really look at this where she felt that she had no choice, and they convinced her to move across the country and move in with some man 11 years older than her who she had never met, been with, who she wasn't even attracted to from the beginning, who had all of these problems, who didn't have a job, had a record, a criminal record, and then told her that she needed to be giving up, that her job was just to be giving up sex to this guy. And this is honestly just crazy. There's so much there's so much potential for harm here, and I've only watched the first episode of this show. So I'm only imagining what is going to come later. But the potential of harm, of SA, of just the worst possible things that could happen to someone happening because of this, and all because they wanted to prove their system. They needed to prove their system. They needed Kylie and Colby, I believe their names were, the couple, and having them get married after 2 months because they needed social proof. And this is something that goes back to this guy's business and marketing, lifestyle brand system, education, is that social proof. You put together everything to make it look a certain way, and people are going to believe that that's the truth, and then they're going to buy things. So you can see how this manipulation was taking place. So they needed the proof, so they just manufactured it, because obviously they weren't actually getting results. People weren't finding themselves in healthy, happy relationships. So anybody who started to have a relationship, they manufactured it and they fed off of it. So you can see that one of the dynamics here is that you think you're going to them for something, but the reality is they're coming for you. They're coming to extract and to pull off of you. And whether that's, your money or just your time and attention and your showing that you are receiving benefit, your testimony, right, out into the world. So there's these things that they're looking to manufacture. And then we can look at this this other girl. I believe her name is Ellie. And she was the woman who had the car accident, and she said something, spirituality as a last chance, and that these people were the only ones who were giving me an assurance of a positive outcome. Okay, so this is really important. People make grand claims about things. I mean, I claim things about my work that I feel are true and that are connected into people helping themselves and healing and transforming and evolving and growing. But when someone is positioning themselves as having the answer, the way, the only possible positive outcome to your problem, that's red flag stuff. Because there is no one way. There's lots of ways. There's lots of positive outcome potentials. And the thing is that a lot of times the process that you go through is actually one of deep personal healing, which can be painful and challenging and confusing and overwhelming. And you need someone to guide you through that healing. But these people weren't actually capable of guiding this woman through her healing, of healing the trauma of this accident and healing the betrayal and the trauma of this partner leaving her at her most vulnerable state and going into the vulnerability of what she was experiencing and finding her own personal strength and healing herself and working with her own stability in order to handle and manage what was happening in her life as a good coach or healer would do. They instead gave her so many these things, oh my gosh, where they said, your ex is your twin flame. You only have one, so you have to make it work. So within that, your ex is your twin flame. You only have one. You have to make it work. And we're the only ones who know how to do that. And so you have to give us all this money and remain in this program because this is your only solution to your pain. No, this is not her only solution. You know what? Some good healing work, some therapy, some, traveling maybe, or doing something beneficial for herself, discovering about herself, learning how to love herself in a different way would probably be a beneficial, positive outcome. Eventually finding somebody who really loved her, wanted to be with her, and wasn't rejecting her, because this constant rejection is only going to draw you further down into a deep, dark place. They said the restraining order, she had a restraining order against her, and they were telling her the restraining order isn't real. If you heal yourself, you heal the relationship. Okay, let's talk about this. This video is getting very long. I don't care. So if you heal yourself, you heal the relationship. This is such a good one. So this is often used, and I especially see it geared towards women a lot of times, but anyone, especially people who are in abusive relationships or some kind of toxic relationship with a narcissist or some other personality disorder person, especially when they're given this advice from the outside and that person doesn't actually know the depth of the stuff that's going on. But basically that if you just heal yourself, if you just work on yourself, your relationship will be better. That's not true. Working on yourself can absolutely benefit your relationship. It will benefit your relationship a lot of times if you are in a relationship with a loving, caring person. If you're in a relationship with an abusive person, working on yourself will probably just drive you mad, because the only way that you can really work on yourself in that situation is to work on yourself to try to avoid their anger, rage, pain coming at you, to try to avoid the bad things, right? To try to fit into what they want. But that person is probably still, no matter how good you are, they're an angry, rageful, narcissistic, abusive person, and they're going to figure out how to be that person because that's who they are. And if someone is not working on that, they're not working on that. So be aware that you cannot heal yourself. You cannot heal yourself enough that someone else will become healed. You can heal yourself to be able to be in a more conscious, loving, kind, open, caring relationship, which will have benefit. But if that person is not capable of that, if that person is not doing their inner work, if that person is not showing up, then hopefully you'll heal yourself enough to realize that this relationship is not where you want to be. And I see that a lot. But what they're saying there is that they are basically blaming, it's a very victim blamey, right? That you're having a hard time in this relationship, then it's your fault. And they used this a lot with this particular woman. And so then this other thing about you just need to believe that you're in a relationship and that the boundaries don't exist. And this guy's saying, like, look, I have a restraining order. I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you. Don't text me. No. I don't want to have anything to do with you. And they're encouraging her to keep reaching out, which is abusive, right? They're turning her into a stalking, abusive person that this person might legitimately be fearful of. And put her life at risk because we don't know who this guy is. They didn't know who this guy is. They don't know if he could have attacked her or harmed her in some kind of way because she was showing up at his house or following him around. And then she actually ended up going to jail, affecting her entire life, perhaps having a record as a stalker and a domestic abuser. That is a serious situation that's going to follow her around. And she didn't deserve that, because if those people had been good coaches, they would have explored what she was telling them and been like, okay, so now's the time for you to work on yourself. I'm really, sorry that this has happened. That does sound extremely painful. That does sound like a betrayal, that this is the worst possible timing for this to happen. But with all of this coming together and so much pain and crisis coming together, there is a way to begin to love yourself more and care for yourself more and develop a relationship with yourself so that then you can be in a healthy relationship later on down the road when you meet the right person. That is ethical. That's integrity. That's how you would work with your friend. That's how you would offer advice to just a friend. Oh gosh. There was a woman named Shanice who said, all things are trumped by the twin flame. It's the answer to everything. The twin flame. It's the answer to everything. All things are trumped. Well, of course, because if all things are trumped by the twin flame, then their university, right, their program, their whole system trumps everything else in your life too. There is everything. This is the most important thing that you can be doing, because what if you don't follow our advice and you don't get what you want, which is your twin flame? Your whole life could be ruined if you don't listen to us. Pursue at all costs, they said. Oh my gosh. I'm almost done. I hope that you're enjoying this. If you've reached this point already, I hope that you're making some comments and sharing. If you are interested in this kind of content, if you would like more of this, I don't know how many episodes are in this series. I haven't even looked, but I would be happy to continue to review this if it's something that people want. So the other piece, then, we want to look at this. I think her name is Kelly. I think I'm massacring everybody's names because I wasn't really paying attention to the names. So the married girl. So you are selfish, is what they were telling her. And that Colby felt entitled to my body and my everything. Your twin flame is designed to satisfy you sexually, and you can't say no. I mean, I just think that this was made up by the guy, right? The leader, because he wanted to manipulate and control sexually his wife. And he's that kind of guy. And so he made it a rule. He made it a tenet of the twin flame path. Yeah. This is really common in Christian cults as well. And it's the way that women have been controlled and harmed and kept in abusive relationships, that they've been told to believe that men should have the right to their bodies. And it's a hard fight to have spousal abuse in this way, SA in this way, seen and recognized, and definitely prosecuted. Probably fairly rare that it's ever prosecuted. And this is what he was putting these young women into, these situations. And I mean, he must be getting so much out of that controlling and in having power over them secondhand through another man. It's so sick. Okay, let's go back to Elle. She was in jail, and there were a few things here. I think I spoke about this before, but it's not hurting you unless you want it to. I can't hurt you. You're not hurt unless you want to be hurt. Well, yeah, that's super abusive human who's going to say something like that, right? And so this is the way that sets you up to believe that if you are in pain or suffering or struggling, it is your fault and not the fault of your abuser. Please pay attention to that. If someone says that to you, question their motivation behind that. They also said, a little self-discipline will solve your problem. She was taken to jail as a stalker. I mean, the self-discipline she needed was to stop texting this guy and stay away from him. But that's not what they offered her. They told her to keep doing it. So, once again, it's your fault. And when you're in an organization and over time, this is what you're being told. It's your fault. Your pain is your fault. You not experiencing the twin flame path is your fault. You not getting the results is your fault. All of this stuff is your fault. Then they are actually setting you up for more and more and more abusive experiences, because you will accept responsibility for that pain and suffering that they are putting you into. And then the last one was she was in there in the jail. She had her mother's phone number memorized, and she did not call her mom because they told her that her mom was demonic and evil. So this is another one to look out for, and this is also used a lot in Christian cults, but that other people are demonic or evil, or other practices even are demonic or evil. And this is something that they will use to separate you from people, from other people. And when people start throwing these words around, these like super serious words about demons and evil, pay attention. Pay attention. Your family is probably not demonic and evil. There are some situations that are really, really, really bad and that you need to be pulled away from. But if you have a normal family who maybe just don't quite get you, or, they love you, but they don't really know how to really love you, that's not because they're demonic and evil. That's because they were raised in a certain way and they have certain views and they don't really know how to show up for you. And I think that within this, looking at this episode, it's really important to look at all of these pieces that I pulled out for you, as far as the red flags and the places where people set up manipulation to grow over time. And that they're feeding off of your desire and your need and your loneliness and your pain. And so when you go to work with someone, really feel into what is their truest intention. And their truest intention is probably not to solve all, like a good healer, it's not to solve all your problems. It's to support you, to hold space for you to do the work that you need to do to heal yourself and to love yourself and to learn the tools and skills that you need in order to thrive in your life in the way that you want. And it isn't about them. And it isn't about roping you in to be in their program for the rest of your life. And it isn't about separating you from your family and from your other communities. And it is going to be self-actualizing, meaning you, yourself, self-sustaining, self-healing, self-awareness over time. And they will not shame you, will not blame you, will not make you feel as though you are unworthy, or that you, if you don't listen to them, then everything is going to fall apart, or that, they have the one and only answer and the one and only way. That's not how this works. So if you like this video, if this was helpful, if you enjoyed it, if you love this breakdown, please, please, please comment, like, subscribe, do all the things. Let me know. Let me know if you want me to continue. I don't know if I'll continue to make these videos if people aren't like, yes, we want this because this is great. And I will see you soon. Please check out my other content. And I hope that if you're looking for healing, that you find that you find a supportive community that you can be yourself in, and that you are able to see your beauty and your beautiful contribution to this planet. And even if you're feeling lonely, or you're feeling fear, or you're feeling sadness, that you can find the supportive community and help that you actually need, and be aware of these red flags and pieces that might come up on your search